So we are at the moment talking about the killing of the demon Aghasura. And in these verses that we were reading, we understood that actually demons are very lucky in a way, because it's not a small thing to achieve Svarupya Mukti. So there are 4 types of liberation. I don't know all of them in Sanskrit, but Svarupya Mukti is attaining the same form as the Supreme Lord. Then there's a liberation by living on the same planet with the Lord. Then a liberation in the sense of having the association of the Lord. And maybe someone knows the 4th. What is that? And isn't there one more?
Same opulences.
Yeah, same opulences, that's the word. So the devotees, they don't meditate on Sayujya Mukti, the merging. So these are like impersonalists who usually want to merge in some kind of an energy. So this is not a form of the meditation for a devotee. And it's interesting to actually, in a way, conclude that these demons are devotees, in a way. Because it is said that if you think about Krishna, then you have to have some kind of a devotion. And devotion can be favorable and unfavorable. So the demons, they have unfavorable devotion. And it was given in one lecture, I heard an explanation which is actually the conversation between Narada Muni and King Yudhishthir, where Narada Muni was explaining in which way a person can achieve Krishna. And when he was talking about the ways to achieve Krishna, he said that Krishna can be achieved by the lusty desires. So if we have lusty desires, and the example of devotees who had lusty desires towards Krishna are the gopis. So they achieved his association. Then we can achieve, Krishna can be achieved by fear. So Kamsa was the one who was known of always thinking of Krishna in fear, because as soon as he heard the prophecy that the 8th or the 7th child of Devaki will kill him, since then he was in fear of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And it was explained how he was constantly thinking of him. And further in the explanations of Srimad Bhagavatam and in the explanations of the Acharyas, it is actually said and concluded that he also achieved Svarupya Mukti. Because basically these demons, when they get an association of Krishna, automatically they get purified, because the presence of Krishna purifies everyone. And even if there is a glimpse of some kind of a devotion, Krishna will take it as something that's beneficial, and he will reward more than he actually received. And that's the greatness of God. And that's why it is said how whatever he does in this material world, he actually does because of his causeless mercy. There's no reason. He loves his devotees, and if we look at it essentially, everyone is a devotee, because everyone is part and parcel of Krishna. But for the moment, some jivas are just put into illusion, and they can be demons, just like Aghasura was a demon, like Kamasa was a demon, and so on. But we know that, for instance, Hiranyaksha and Hiranyakashipu, they are Jaya and Vijaya in the spiritual world, gatekeepers of Vaikuntha. So the point that I'm trying to make is that there's a reason why it is said that Krishna is all good. All these dualities in the material world that we see, what is good, what is bad, who is good, who is bad, it's just due to conditioning and our perspective. And everything that we actually look at, we look at it from our perspective, because we have some experience of things in this world. So therefore, whenever we encounter something new, or when we encounter a person, when we encounter even scriptures, when we read about certain things, or when we read about analogies, or when we read about the qualities of Krishna, we usually think about it according to our experience that we have. And sometimes we put Krishna in our frames. of human experience. But even though Krishna has a human form, his form is Sachitananda Vigrahas, which means it's a spiritual form, and whatever he does has nothing to do with the things that conditioned souls do. So he always comes for the benefit of everyone. And in the Bhagavad Gita, when he proclaims that he comes to establish the principles of religion and that he comes to protect his devotees and annihilate the demons, he actually benefits everyone. It's not just that Krishna comes only to remove the burden of Bhumi and to, satisfy the demigods and the devotees. He also comes here to purify the demons. So Agasura, Bakasura, Putana, and every one of the demons that he will encounter, he will actually purify them. And it is why they are so fortunate, these demons, is because actually these demons, even though they're unfavorably serving the Lord, having unfavorable emotions towards the Lord and intentions like hating him or fearing him, or Agasura, he wanted to revenge the death of his brother Bakasura and sister Putana. So that was his motivation, and of course to help Kamsa, but he had also this personal level. So his devotion was not pure, but he had something that actually many of us don't have, and that is the fixation, the focus on Krishna. So he was totally concentrated on Krishna, and he was actually meditating on Krishna in his mind. And there was a glimpse of second, it is said, like just for a moment, I think even in the verse itself. It is said even only once. And then the acharyas, they say like only in the moment. It is what is needed, like to have some benefit of meditating of Krishna. And we know that we have an example of Ajamil also, who was neutrally, he didn't have ill intentions towards Krishna, but he also didn't have, he didn't say the word Narayana thinking of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He was thinking actually of his son. But still, we know what happened, so that Yamadutas was stopped to execute the orders of Yamaraj, because Vishnudutas, they heard the name of the Supreme Lord, and they came, and the whole conversation between the Yamadutas and Vishnudutas was happening, like on why they're stopping them. And then the Yamadutas went to Yamaraj to ask, like, aren't you the Supreme One? Like, why did we have to listen to the Vishnudutas? And then Yamaraj explains how there is someone even higher than him whose orders he is actually fulfilling, and that is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So this is like the point that was made here is like, what is the potency of meditation on Krishna, and how Krishna is all good. He doesn't actually look at our conditionings. He just is looking for this glimpse of a moment of some sincerity, of some focus only on him, where he actually liberates us. And this is like my conclusion, that's why it is said that he wants us back in the spiritual world more than we do, because he takes so little that we actually do, so that he can liberate us. And and this is like the Krishna that we will come to one day. And as I said, it was not a small thing to achieve Sarupya Mukti. Why? Because Agasura, he became the associate of Supreme Personality of Godhead in Vaikuntha. So some would say, oh, Vaikuntha, but Vaikuntha is quite wonderful. It's a place without anxieties, and it's a place where we can serve the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and where everyone is happy, where everyone is beautiful, where everyone actually shares the same opulence as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, where there is no death, where there is no birth, no disease, and no old age. So actually it's a perfect place. And then the verse says, like, if Agasura was given this, what then is to say of the ones in which hearts Krishna enters when he incarnates in this world. So we know who these persons are. So Devaki and Vasudeva are like parents of Krishna, but here it's meant also of, I think that this is mostly because he comes through the manifestation in the heart of his parents in this material world. So Vasudeva and Devaki. And so what position actually they achieve by the mercy of Krishna, because they have this intimacy that actually we in Gaudiya Vaishnava Sampradaya are hankering for. And then it is said, what is to say also on the devotees who constantly meditate on the lotus feet of the Lord, who is the source of transcendental bliss for all living entities and by whom all illusions are completely removed. And therefore, Srila Prabhupada, he was mentioning some verses in the purpose that I will also read. First of all, he mentions the verse of Srimad Bhagavatam 4:22-39. He mentions it in the sense of that these demons are actually even greater than some transcendentalists that are mentioned in the Bhagavad Gita. So we know that jnanis and yogis, they're also searching for perfection. But jnanis, they speculate on who is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. They want to gain certain knowledge, and in the end, they actually only come to the conclusion of merging into the energy of the Lord. And the yogis, they want mystic powers, so they have some kind of a material motivation. And they're not still yet on this level of devotion, which would give them Svarupya Mukti, as in the case of Agasura, for example. So therefore, it is said in this verse 4:22-39 that the devotees who are always engaged in the service of the toes of the lotus feet of the Lord can very easily overcome hard-knotted desires for fruitive activities. Because this is very difficult, the non-devotees, which are jnanis and yogis, although trying to stop the waves of sense gratification, cannot do so. Therefore, you are advised to engage in devotional service of Krishna, the son of Vasudeva. So this is basically actually what Krishna concludes in the Bhagavad Gita. He describes all these spiritual paths that a person can follow, and he calls all of them transcendentalists, and they're all magnanimous souls, like very elevated souls. But still, the best yogi is the one who, with devotion, thinks of Krishna and who engages in his devotional service. Because Krishna is never conquered or revealed to the ones who only gain knowledge, or who perform sacrifices, or who perform this yogic, yogic postures, or breathing pranayama, and so on. They need to, in the end, perform certain devotional service to the Lord. And we know which activities of devotional service we perform, and that is kirtanam, chanting of the glories of the Lord, shravanam, hearing the glories of the Lord, remembering the Lord, offering everything we have to the Lord, serving the Lord as a servant, becoming friends with the Lord, worshipping the deity, and so on. So these are some of the activities which are in the category of devotional service that we perform, and then we easily overcome this hard-knotted desire for fruitive activities, because whatever the jnanis and the yogis do, they're actually artificially trying to accomplish the cessation of material desires, or they're trying to detach themselves from the material world, but they're not replacing the material attachment with something, or replacing the material desire with something. So material detachment has to be replaced by the attachment to the pure devotees of the Lord and to the Lord. So it has to become a spiritual attachment. And also material desires, they also have to be spiritualized. They have to become desires for pleasing the Lord. And there is a very beautiful explanation, like an analogy. I think it's in this purport, and yes, I can find it. So it is said, Srila Prabhupada says in the purport, one should therefore take shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord instead of trying unsuccessfully to stop desires for material enjoyment. As long as one is unable to stop the desire for material enjoyment, there is no possibility of becoming liberated from the entanglement of material existence. And this is beautiful. It may be argued that the waves of a river are incessantly flowing and that they cannot be stopped, but the waves of the river flow towards the sea. When the tide comes over the river, it overwhelms the flowing of the river, and the river itself becomes overflooded. Then the waves from the sea become more prominent than the waves from the river. Similarly, a devotee with intelligence plans so many things for the service of the Lord in Krishna consciousness that stagnant material desires become overflooded by the desire to serve the Lord. And then it is confirmed this by Yamunacharya. And he says, since he has been engaged in the service of the lotus feet of the Lord, there is always a current of newer and newer desires flowing to serve the Lord, so much that the stagnant desires of sex life becomes very insignificant. And Yamunacharya even says that he spits on such desires. And Bhagavad Gita in 2:59 also confirms this as param drishtva nirvatate. So I found it and I wrote here that experiencing a higher taste when it's fixed in consciousness. So basically, it's very difficult for people who come to Krishna consciousness at the beginning. They don't have taste for the activities of Krishna consciousness. They don't have taste for detachment from material things or seeing that they should give pleasure to Krishna. But by performing these activities, by chanting, especially the holy name of the Lord, they will gain certain taste and they will gain certain experience in the spiritual life, which will actually overflood the material desires and their detachment, because then they will know that if I catch this higher taste, higher thing, then I can leave the lower taste and lower things. And the best example for it is, maybe some of you can say, what we do every day. We replaced instantly and we loved it immediately when we came to, So tasteful prasadam. So if we come to people and we say like, well, we propagate the principle of ahimsa, non-violence. We think that animals should not be slaughtered and that they also have a soul inside of them and so on. And then usually you have a question, so what will we eat? How to survive in this? Will we die then if we stop? Because some people really think that if you don't eat meat that you will die. But that's not true, and then you have to give them something, some replacement, and that is in the form of prasadam, which is beautifully tasteful and it's very satisfying. So then they can let it go, this lower attachment to actually something that is very sinful. The same is with intoxication, become intoxicated by kirtan and the holy name. So the kirtan, especially kirtan, can bring people in some states of ecstasy while they sing it, especially with nice music and so on, since they don't have the taste at the beginning for the holy name of the Lord. So we have to give them something for their senses. So it can be like a replacement. I like this, so I can more concentrate and meditate on this, and then I will let go. And the same is with the illicit sex, and the same is with the gambling and speculating. We don't gamble and speculate because through our activities in Krishna consciousness and in the process of Krishna consciousness, we actually depend on Krishna. So we accept what he gives to us, and he promises in the Bhagavad Gita that he preserves what we have and he gives us what we lack. And if we practice spiritual life every day, we can have this realization, and therefore you can have this higher taste of Krishna's qualities of taking care of his devotees, and then you can let go. And as for illicit sex, sex desire can also be overflooded by a desires for serving Krishna, because actually you can see the peacefulness and some, I don't know, purity in the service without sex. So but it has to have, you have to have experience. And I like, so everything in spiritual life is based on experience. We have all these books, and of course we follow Guru, Sadhu and Shastra, but sometimes this is theory, and we need to have some kind of experience in our life. And even though some devotees don't like this quotation, but it was actually, I think, heard by Giriraj Swami in a conversation with Srila Prabhupada, where he said that if you want to taste the honey, you have to open the bottle of honey. You cannot lick the, how you say, yeah. So you have to, it's like, you cannot, this is my analogy or a metaphor, but you cannot watch someone swimming in the sea and then imagine how it is to swim in the sea. You just jump and then have your own experience of how it is to swim in the sea. And that's the way with spiritual life also. So you just follow the footsteps of the acharyas, of the spiritual masters, and of the devotees. And if you really sincerely try, Krishna will help you and you will gain this experience. So this is, so the experience is needed for us to gain higher taste and to live this lower modes, actually, of material nature. But the same is, for instance, in the experience of the spiritual world. I like that because I was listening to I am listening to the lectures of my spiritual master, who is giving lectures on Brihad Bhagavatamrita, and we are currently on the 4th chapter of volume 2. For a chapter of volume 2, which is talking about Vaikuntha and the spiritual world, and in the purports, which are given by Gopi Pranadana, right, Prabhu, but also based on Sanatana Goswami's explanations. It is said that, yeah, it is very good to listen about the spiritual world from the pure devotees, but that's only 50% of the work. If you want to really know what the spiritual world is like, then you have to experience it by yourself. And it's actually a wonderful example given also by my spiritual master, where he says that actually the seeds of how the spiritual world looks like were given to Rupa and Sanatana Goswami by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So we have the book of teachings of Lord Chaitanya, which is based on Chaitanya Charitamrita, and there it is explained like what Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gave to the Goswamis, Rupa and Sanatana. And basically, based on these seeds, in which, like in, I don't know, in a seed-like form, Krishna Chaitanya explained the whole Krishna consciousness, and he explained also the spiritual world, and then the Goswamis wrote all these books. But they had the seeds, but through the practice of Krishna consciousness and through the practice in their spiritual life, they gained realizations. So they actually saw all of that, because it would be impossible to explain in such detail what's happening in the spiritual world. And I read many times how actually all the pure devotees, they have TVs in their hearts, which actually project the spiritual world. That's like a metaphor in a way. They can see through their hearts the spiritual world. And therefore we have, for instance, who wrote, so we have, my brain is not working today. Jiva Goswami, he wrote, Champu. Yogbal Champu, yeah, and with an A, yeah, thank you. So Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, he wrote Ananda Vrindavan Champu, and then we have from Jiva Goswami. But if you read both of them, and even if you read the same pastimes in Krishna book, and then if you read Srimad Bhagavatam, you will see a little bit of differences. So because it's like their actually perception of the same lila. So every one of them will add something to it. I mean, Srila Prabhupada, when he wrote the Krishna book, sometimes he took from this one or that one, but it's like what they perceived in the spiritual world. And so we actually also need to experience it. And yeah, I mean, we should be humble in the sense of, no, I'm not qualified, and I'm certainly not qualified to enter Golokadam and so on, but we should aspire for it and do everything that is necessary. And I was also thinking, and I was actually speaking about it with Mangala Chandrika, how do we have to die to have some experience, or is this experience actually can be achieved when we are alive? Because that's not impossible. That's actually what the Shastras say, that devotee, even in this body, that's actually a pure devotee. When he is Krishna conscious, when he purely has devotion towards Krishna, there is actually no difference of his life here in this material world than the life that he would have in the spiritual world. It's the same, like the same realizations and so on. So I like that, and in the sense it's like an encouragement for us that we try it. Yes, we are unqualified, and yes, you know how Krishna Kaviraj Goswami says, my feet are slipping. It's so hard, but still I have the stick of mercy of the great devotees that will help me. So then we pray, and then we pray for realizations, and they can be small ones, but they are still realizations. So whenever we do services, we certainly have some kind of reciprocation from Krishna in our services. If we serve the deities on the altar, if we go to Sankirtan, to book distribution, there is always some kind of a reciprocation. And also we get realizations in our heart. And yes, again, we should know that we are materially conditioned, and there is always a mind issue that we have to be careful of. But Krishna is in the heart, and He's giving us intelligence, and He's giving us instructions of how to come to Him. So in that sense, there's always like two sides. The side where we have to understand how conditioned we are, and how we should not be puffed up even if we gain something. We should always remain humble. Like whatever realization that was given to us is like a gift of the Lord. It's not something that we own. It's like His mercy, because everything actually that He does is His mercy. But on the other side, we should always strive for it. Like, and it's the same example is given, like how I think maybe I mentioned it last time. I was giving a class how there are two types of mercy that Krishna gives. One type of mercy is like His personal direct mercy. And if you read Brihad Bhagavatamrita, that's actually how He manifests His direct mercy. He said to Gopakumar, when he saw him, like, I've been dancing like a fool for you. That's what he said to him. Like, I wanted you to come to the spiritual world, but you didn't even chant my names. And there was nothing I could do, so I even intervened in the laws that I made of the material world. Like, even if you did nothing, you did no pious activities, I intervened. And how did He intervene? I personally came as your spiritual master, Jayanta, I think. But it was not only that. I mean, he was born as a cowherd boy in Govardhan, in Vrindavan. And then he met Jayanta, who gave him like the highest mantra to meditate on Madan Gopal. And then only because, then there are the qualities of what actually Gopakumar was. He was very simple, naive in a way. He was not a complicated person. And whenever he was approaching something that he encountered in his spiritual life, he would just say like, okay, let me see what I can learn from this, or what this can bring me, or I'll just try. And in the same sense, even his spiritual master even didn't explain to him how he should perform spiritual activities, or what this mantra can do, or later on he did explain. But actually he just told him to chant. So it was just this simplicity of faith to do what the spiritual master actually said. And then he was given the results of that kind of chanting. So in that sense, this is like the explanation of this direct mercy of Krishna. which is explained throughout Brihad Bhagavatamrita. But in a way, it's also a message for devotees that even though Gopakumar, he did receive this direct mercy of Krishna, but he had to go through all the planets of material universes. He was even a Brahma and an Indra, and he went to Vaikuntha, so he tried everything. So the message is, you don't have to try everything. This is an explanation of what you can see, but actually you don't have to go through all of this. You could just go to Goloka Vrindavan, and then in the end it is explained how Krishna welcomed Gopakumar as Swarup, and it's a beautiful. I'm just going to tell that because it's really beautiful. So it's like this intimacy that Gopakumar was searching for. When he was in Vaikuntha Loka, he felt dissatisfaction. And then we said how Vaikuntha is a place without misery, right? Everyone is satisfied there and happy. So how can Gopakumar be dissatisfied in Vaikuntha? But he was dissatisfied because of the lack of intimacy. And why? Because in his meditation, actually, when he was meditating on Madha Gopal, he embraced him and he even kissed him. So there was intimacy in the relationship of both of them. So in Vaikuntha, it was not possible for Gopakumar to experience this. And then it is explained how even when he had a darshan of Lord Narayan, then the time came for lunch. And then everyone had to go. And Gopakumar was like, oh, but I don't want to go. I want to see my Lord. But no, it was a private time for Lakshmi and Lord Narayan, and everyone had to leave. And it was just like the procedure of how it was done in Vaikuntha. There was no spontaneous like action and so on. So that was lacking, and he was dissatisfied. And then Narada Muni, further on, he will explain to him where he can find this kind of intimacy that he is seeking for. And he will find it in Goloka Vrindavan. And when he came there, he was very much welcomed by Madan Gopal, and Madan Gopal even fainted, and everyone was like, what did you do to our Krishna? Like, why is he fainting and crying and so on? And then the moment for lunch came. So this is an explanation of the difference. And then Gopakumar was invited to sit at the table where Nanda Maharaj was sitting with his brothers and friends. And on one side was Balaram, on the other side was Krishna. And everyone was filling the plate of Krishna, and Krishna was eating, and Gopakumar was eating. And then Radharani came with the best ladus, and she gave it to Krishna, and then Krishna tried the ladus, and he said, like, oh, they're bitter. I don't like them. And everyone was in shock. All the associates of Srimati Radharani, like, what happened? You know, Radharani is the best cook in all the worlds. How can a ladu be bitter? And then Krishna said, yeah, I don't like it. I will give everything to Gopakumar or Swarup. So he filled his plate with all the ladus. And so Gopakumar tried the ladu, and it was the sweetest ladu he ever tried in his world. In his life. And of course he ate the whole plate. But it was like a gesture of welcoming Swarup or Gopakumar to the spiritual world, and the intimacy that Krishna showed. And this is like the moment where Gopakumar or Swarup was satisfied. And it was very nice to also say that Krishna took this beetle, what is it called? I was chewing, betel, and I was chewing it, and he wanted to give it to Radharani, but he couldn't, of course, because the circumstances. And then he gave it to Swarup or Gopakumar because he belonged to, what is the Sudama is the brother of Radharani, right? Sudam is the brother of Radharani. So because Swarup or Sridhar, how? Sridhar, okay, Sridhar. So Swarup was belonging to Sridhar's family. So when Krishna gave the betel nut to Swarup or Gopakumar, actually it was like he was giving it to Radharani because Swarup belonged to Sridhar's family, and Sridhar is the brother of Radharani. So it's like again, a gesture of love and intimacy that cannot be found on Vaikuntha. So that's very nice. That's what I wanted to share because I was listening to that for 2 days now. It was very beautiful. And the second type of mercy, just to mention, not direct mercy, but it's indirect mercy, and it comes through, and it's the most often type of mercy, and it comes through the scriptures and the pure devotees. So Krishna does not intervene. He says, like, I leave the souls to the Vedas and the devotees, pure devotees, and then they are the ones who give the mercy, and that's the most often. But then it is said, like, we should not expect, again, the expectation. We should not expect, we should be humble and so on. But we can always, like, pray for it and hope for it. So it's, like, allowed. So it's always this, it's like, I don't know how to say it, like, how do you say vaga? Yeah, balancing, like, the humility and the desire at the same time of a devotee. So, yeah, and to conclude, because everything was a little bit about mercy and showing how even demons, they get this mercy of Krishna. And it's, I will say it will take just a few more minutes. That here, for example, here Krishna gave this mercy because he wanted it as Supreme Personality of Godhead. But when he comes as Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, then his mercy is a little bit different. It's again mercy thing. It is said actually in the scriptures that when Krishna comes as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, as in the Bhagavad Gita and Mahabharata and so on. But also in Vrindavan Krishna. Then his mercy potency is subdued to his will potency. So whatever he decides has a primacy over the mercy. So, but why am I saying that? Is because when he comes as Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, then this mercy energy is not subdued to some potency of his, like, will potency. It becomes independent. And why it becomes independent? Because Radharani asked him to do that. And because he, as Lord Chaitanya, he comes as Srimati Radharani. And I just hope that I can find it because it's so beautiful. And just to mention that. Yeah, it's in Croatian, so I'll have to translate. It said that when he comes as Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, distributing actually prema by chanting the holy name of the Lord, his Kripa shakti, his energy of mercy, is actually subdued to his Icha shakti, the energy of his will or desire. No, it's not. It's independent. Sorry, I read it wrong. So Kripa shakti is independent. So he gave his Kripa shakti independence so that she is not under control of his Icha shakti. And that is beautiful. Mahaprabhu could not distribute everyone without discrimination, prema, the pure love, the greatest of all secrets, if he didn't give his Kripa shakti independence. Therefore, Mahaprabhu's Kripa, Mahaprabhu's mercy is so wonderful. Adbhuta Karunya. He is known as Adbhuta Vadanya. Amazingly, he gives amazingly, because his Kripa Shakti is independent, not waiting for the approval of his Icha Shakti, which is like that he actually intends to do it. And then I was thinking, like, how true that is, because when I don't know why I can't remember today the names, but Jaya and Vijaya were in Chaitanya Lila. They were yes, Jaga and Madai. Brain not working today. So Jaga and Madai. So when they hurt Nityananda Prabhu, when they actually hit him with a stone and he was bleeding, then Lord Chaitanya came with Sudarshan Chakra, and that's actually this Icha Shakti. Like, I'm deciding now you cannot do that. But then Nityananda Prabhu said, like, no, you decided that Kripa Shakti, the mercy, should be first, not this protection and so on. So I was thinking about that when I was reading it. So in that sense, this Kripa Shakti is independent. It doesn't allow him to do maybe the things that he would do as an incarnation of Krishna, where he actually came and killed the demons. So in this incarnation as Lord Chaitanya, he doesn't kill, he only gives mercy. And it doesn't matter if you're qualified, if you're unqualified, and so on. So yeah, Maha, yeah, and this is said that even Mayavadis, they accepted, they received his mercy when he was actually preaching to them. Just a second. And then Mahaprabhu told to his Kripa Shakti, his mercy potency, you can give me, like me, Krishna, to anyone you like. I give you independence for that. So his Kripa Shakti then became extremely powerful and very the person who gives love, like very loving. And Kripa Shakti gave love for Krishna, Krishna Prema. Yeah, and he did that because Radharani is his guru. Because Mahaprabhu, in his Krishna, in his incarnation of Mahaprabhu, he shows that he is subdued to Srimati Radharani. Radharani goes everywhere and gives an order that prema should be distributed to all. Radharani gives an order, Krishna Nama Prema Dana. You give the love through Nam, the holy name, everywhere to everyone without discrimination. Radharani is so merciful, and this is the Radharani's order. So this indicates that Krishna is subdued to Radharani. It is said that Krishna is Adi Guru. Guru Parampara begins from Krishna, but here it is said that Radharani is Krishna's Guru. Radhikara Prema Guru Amishishyanata Sada Amanana Nritya Nachaya Udbata. Radha's love is my teacher, and I am her playful student. Her prema makes me dance in many wonderful ways. So in the end, we're very fortunate because actually we have the order of Srimati Radharani that the mercy should be distributed everywhere. And this Kripa Shakti, the Shakti, the mercy potency is independent and actually is very, she just wants to give it to everyone. So in that sense, we are actually very lucky, and therefore it is confirmed what is said in this verse, that what is then to be said of those whose hearts the Supreme Personality of Godhead enters when he appears as an incarnation, or those who always think of the lotus feet of the Lord, who is the source of transcendental bliss for all living entities, and by whom all illusion is completely removed. And in today's world, even though it's Kali Yuga and it's an awful age to live in, everyone on this planet can have this Kripa Shakti. And actually, in a way, it's our responsibility to give it to others. So, thank you very much. If you have any comments and questions, sorry I took a little bit more time.
Thank you. This was nectar.
You,
Thank you for all this nectar. It was really wonderful.
thank you.
Thank you so much. I really enjoyed it. It was a nectarian lecture. Small things, just small. This, you said like this. It comes by the heart. You know the verse, and you said Devaki and Vasudeva. But what about Devahuti and was it Kadamun?
Yeah, I think also. I don't remember exactly, but I know that whenever he incarnates, even when he was coming as Lord Chaitanya, he also manifested in the heart of Sachimata. So,
and small thing, he said, I would, he said, if you get the higher taste, then it is easy for you to leave the lower taste.
yes.
And this is now what I like about the slogan, you do your best and Krishna does the rest. Because if you get a higher taste, then the nice thing is that automatically the lower taste fades away. You don't have to, you have to put in endeavors in getting the higher taste. That's the best you do.
No.
And the rest is Krishna. So you do your best to get a higher taste, and automatically the taste for all the other things fades away.
Yeah.
That's an automatical process. You don't have to put in. That's what I thought.
Yeah.
It's not that you have to, you can leave it easily, so I have to leave it. It happens similarly.
Yeah.
Higher taste comes and automatically the other fades away.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true.
Something like that. That's why I like this, you do your best in Krishna restoration.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I have an example of that. I was smoking, even though I was a devotee, but I was smoking. And I met my spiritual master, and I knew that if I want him as my spiritual master, that I'll have to quit smoking. So I tried, and I think it was just the mercy, just the intention, just because I had this experience with my spiritual master that was more important than the cigarettes. That's why I could stop smoking. Because before that, it was impossible. Or, I don't know, I just see it, for me it was like a miracle. Because I was trying for years and nothing worked. But just because I had some kind of a taste for the association of my spiritual master, and I knew that I cannot have it if I smoke, then this prevailed. So this for me in my life is like an example of mercy.
I had the same with me.
Yeah, good.
And last thing, if you talk about direct mercy, is that the same as the costless mercy?
Yeah. That's my phone. Yes. Yeah. Can you? I'm sorry that I.
I was thinking about this automatic. It is not automatic in case you said you wanted it. And this is what is not really automatic about it. I mean, the one thing is what makes the thing happen.
Yeah.
So that's the ingredient is very important.
Yes, of course. Yeah. Yeah. Of course, everything is in a desire. But you can have like.
We have to want it.
Yeah.
We have to want to change. We have to want actually to be part of this.
Yeah. But you have some old habits, for instance, because they're there because of this desires from before, and then it's like like a fight going on until it's like.
Yeah, because this is like Krishna said that if we have the if we get something but we don't recognize it, we cannot do much with it. But the moment because you involved with the desire to want to change and to want to come to a certain behavior, so then this is what is making a difference.
Yeah.
Maybe I wasn't clear when I say automatic, small thing. When I said automatically, in my mind I had this thing, like in Amsterdam, a lot of new people come, the young pensioners, and they say, I can't leave onion, I have to go to a restaurant, I don't have time for anything, my job is very heavy, and all these things. And I always said, you chant. You can, don't focus on this onion and all these things in the restaurant, focus on the chanting. And when you chant in that way, then I said, if your chanting is sincere and strong, don't worry, automatically those things will fade away because you get a higher taste by the chanting.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai.